I'm going to introduce our senior pastor, Dustin, to take it from here.
Thanks, buddy. Hey, hi, everybody online. We've got all of our homes watching. I know I'm just going to do this. That's super awkward when I do that, probably. Should I just keep it as this pose the whole time? All they can see is my chest. It's super awkward. So, oh, I see. Yeah, the Riddle family's like turning it off. They're like, is there any way? They're like, what is happening here? Don't worry, I'm not going to dance like David danced. Let's see. Here, I'm going to stop my video there. That'll make it a little bit easier. This is such a different day, and even having the mic this is not exactly what we were wanting to do. We just knew that this group would be a larger group, and so we did it in here. We had talked about doing it over at the house over there, and it's interesting because for church, the dream, I talk to pastors all the time, and they're always just talking about how to get more people in the room, how to keep more people. And our services have been, it's just been incredible to see what God's doing week after week. And last Sunday was such a powerful weekend. And I felt like the roof was going to blow off during worship. And just listening to Pastor Robert speak and the stories and hearing people, how they're impacted. And so, most of the time when you have something like that, people call that momentum, so they're like, you got to keep momentum going. And what do? I implode it and send people all over, the city to other places like, hey, I've got a good idea. It's going so well. Let's not do it. Let's do it. And so we got everybody sitting in homes today. But if I'm honest, I've said this, and you'll hear me say it 100 times, is that I did not start a church so we can just get a bunch of people in a room. And so for those of you sitting in here, I know it is hard, and it's hard when you walk in. The patterns that we've established in church is kind of come in, sit, not talk to anybody, don't get to know anybody, and then turn around, walk out, and act like I was part of the church. And that's actually not ever been the intention of what the church is supposed to be. And it's hard because we've got all these different ideas of how to do it and what's going to, what to do with church. But I really feel like, as people are reading scriptures, they're going kind of back to what they think a system was. So they're saying things like, we got to get in homes. We got to get in homes. Let's get it in homes. The problem is that really, in that day, the reason they met in homes is because they all knew each other so well that the natural thing was to get into a home. They actually also met in a synagogue. So they met in larger settings. It wasn't like the home is the only place they met. And so it's not like home church is the thing. It's that we have to kind of start changing our mindset on what this is actually supposed to be. And I'm going to say some things today that are probably going to frustrate a couple of you, but that's why I sent most of you to other people's homes. In this room, these are all friends, so I got people who are going to be okay with it, and they're not going to care. But I know, no, I'm just kidding. I'll leave it for the house leaders to clean it up when I'm done, So, but we have 9 different homes. And this has been such an encouraging process because I've been overwhelmed by the encouragement that I've gotten from every single one of you, from every home. I mean, every person going to different homes. It was so awesome. And we have 9 homes, and the average amount of people in a home is 19 people. That's the average. And some of them have a little bit less. Some of them have, the Weedman house, I think, has 34 in their house. And Tom and Diana now have 24 over at our house. So there are some larger groups too. But we tried not to make them too big. And one of the reasons is because I want you to get to know each other. And in this process, I've been so encouraged because I feel like what God's doing is he's actually unifying hearts, and he's drawing people together who have actually always kind of had this longing. We kind of push it away a little bit because, Nathan said, Marquis, if I feel a little more introverted, Gina and I, when we first got together, I remember I actually was a youth pastor at Tom and Diana's church before I actually started ministry. They were one of the first places I ever ministered, and Gina and I were just dating. And I went into their church, and their church wasn't a huge church, but I went in, and there was probably about 15 youth, and the very first time I went in, instantly connected, I'm sitting in the middle. We're all laughing together and talking, and it wasn't the intent to be a youth pastor. I was just coming in as Gina's boyfriend, and just instantly just connecting with the youth. And Gina's like, we left, and she's like, I'm so frustrated with you. She's like, how do you do that? She said, I've actually been here for like 6 months, and I don't even know any of them, and it's not because she's a mean person or a bad person. It's just that she's not going to insert herself into someone else's story. And that's not... Here, you might have to unmute this one. Asher doesn't get to change batteries anymore. It's right there. There's a mute. It's right there. Daniel, there's a... There we go. Once again, batteries were changed by Asher. He promised me he wouldn't do that again, but he did it. So, yeah. Okay. So this is church startup, people. A 10-year-old is in charge of our media. So what do you do, And he does a really good job in most things, but batteries are not his thing. So really, he does a really well. He's the one that's been running the camera. He's actually been running sound. And so how am I supposed to have him keep up with everything? You know what I mean? But inserting herself into somebody else's story is not something Gina was going to do. And so one of the things that I started doing with her, I said, if you'll be patient with me and trust me, I'll insert you into their stories. And so she's like, I hate this, And I was like, but this is going to be so much fun, And she's like, oh, I'm going to throw up. And but so I would bring her, we would go in to talk, and I would actually just start asking them stories. And when I knew there was a connection point between them and Gina's story, I would say, oh man, Gina does, or she has that. Oh, you're so awesome. If this one dies, I'll use this one now. Thank you so much. Let's all give it up for Asher. He's just done such a great job. So I would start inserting, and I would find connection points. And I would find a place where maybe her story can... Is that the only way you could walk from the bathroom? I need this... I know this is home church, but it's, I guess when I said make yourself at home, just do what you need to do. Max walks by like... That was awkward. All right, this is not working out, people. This is... So I would invite her into the story. And I think sometimes people don't invite each other into their stories. And sometimes you need someone else to invite you into someone else's story. And I recognize it's one of the things that Jesus would do. He would actually invite the disciples to go on a journey, but it wasn't just for Jesus and that disciple. It was for Jesus, that disciple, and the other disciples. He would start actually asking them questions that would trigger something in Peter. And you have to know, as other disciples who are frustrated with, they'd had to be frustrated with Peter, but they were part of Peter's story now. And they're journeying together. And no matter how dumb Peter was at times, Peter's also the dude that got out of the boat. And the other disciples are like, don't do it. And Peter's like, I'm doing it. And they don't not want him to do it just because they don't want him to be dumb. It's because it makes them look dumb if it works. Right? It's hard. It's hard sometimes because I realize in the community of faith, there's stories that are going to challenge our stories. And there's things that God's trying to do. Aaron and Jen, when they first started telling me their story, it challenged me in my story. And it challenged me. There's certain things that I had to ask myself. Would I be willing to do that? Would I be willing to take a risk? Would I be willing to step into it? And I realized one of the reasons we needed to get in each other's homes and do this is because we need to be at the very center of each other's stories. And the very center of each other's stories is in a house. It doesn't get any more central than a house. And that was one of the reasons, even in here, I did not want to meet in here with a microphone. Because sometimes it becomes so performance-based for people that they can't connect with it. Because they're like, I'm not going to have the mic. But it's hard when we first walk in, isn't it? We kind of go sit. We would love for somebody to come talk to us. But it doesn't always happen everywhere we're at. And we're not going to try to insert ourselves into other people's stories. We don't even know what's happening here, And so I wouldn't expect you to. That's my job. My job is to intersect stories. And I realized that for many years, church as normal has kept us from even being involved in each other's stories, not realizing we were writing a story, it just wasn't the right story. Because all of you can tell me a story of church now. The problem is most of your stories are not the stories you really want to hear. It's like, I don't want to do that again. The problem is we typically get right back into that pattern of writing that story again because we haven't changed the way the story was written. And God's starting to challenge us on what are you going to do to get people to intersect with each other's stories? And I realize for me, many of you are uncomfortable with that. Because you have not looked at church as a place where I'm going to be a part of a group. You look at a church as something that's supposed to encourage you in your personal relationship with Jesus. And that's not what church is supposed to be. Oh man, it got I don't know about your house. It got super quiet in here, like awkwardly quiet in here. Like what? No, church is supposed to help me in my personal walk. No, it is not. That is a byproduct of church, but that is not what church is for. You have made this about you for so long, and you forgot it's about us. And if you knew it was about us, you would have intersected your story with someone else's because you knew that was the way Christianity was to work. So 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 says this, "But you are God's chosen treasure, priests who are kings, a spiritual nation, set apart as God's devoted ones. He called you out of darkness to experience his marvelous light, and now he claims you as his very own. He did this so that you would broadcast his glorious wonders throughout the world. For at one time you were not God's people, but now you are. At one time, you knew nothing of God's mercy because you hadn't received it yet, but now you are drenched with it. For at one time, you were not God's people." I need you to understand, becoming a Christian means you're switching groups. I was a part of the world, and now I'm a part of the kingdom of God. This is always going to be about a people and not about you just as a person. It takes personal responsibility. I have to do my part to be us. I can't be us without me. I need to be a part of us. But the focus cannot be me and my individual walk with Jesus that shuts me off from having any responsibility for anybody else. The way the New Testament was written with a group of people who knew they were responsible for each other. Listen, I'm just telling you right now, many of you grew up in church telling yourself, I need to figure out the direction of my personal life, and then everything that I associate myself with is to help me in that journey. So I come to church to figure out how I'm going to facilitate my journey better. But the New Testament was written with a group of people who made decisions based on each other. They did not make decisions just for themselves. They made decisions based on the greater good of what was happening in a community of believers. So I didn't sit around worrying about my personal life all the time. My personal life was taken care of because there was a community that was also thinking about me. The reason most people have to be so consumed with their own personal journey and their own personal walk is because they know no one else cares about me. No one else is sitting around thinking about how I'm going to win, how my family's going to pay my bills. And I've heard people say that. Well, that's easy for you to say because you're not paying our bills. You know what? That's actually not true here. You know what I've done? I've paid other people's bills. That's not a pride thing. That's a thing that none of us should think that's a pride thing. We should think that's normal. It's only a pride thing if one person's doing it. That person can build themselves up because, oh man, they're the one who take care of everybody. If we're all taking care of everybody, it's not a pride thing, it's a normal thing. What are you prideful about that for? We all do that. You can't be prideful in a position where everybody's doing it. The reason it can become a pride thing is because it's so rare. Why would you even care? I've had that so many times in this city. I've had so many times say, why do you even care? Why do you care about me like that? Why would you do all of this for us, for me? Why would you stop getting to succeed in this just so we can have this? Because everything I do is about us. I'm really fighting for us. I'm not fighting for me. Why would I send everybody everywhere if I'm trying to build up something here? Because most of the time we try to build something to look successful. So we want to post the pictures where there's no holes in anything. We want to post the pictures where it looks like everything went super great and it's like exploding. And it's like, yeah, my thing is, even if it's exploding, like you're going to find, I probably don't post that much about it. It's okay to do that. Nothing wrong with it. I want the world to know God's doing something. But the truth is, I am not bound by a system and a structure that has been built for individual success and not the success of a people. So for this to be success for a people, you have to recognize you were pulled out of a group of darkness and put into a group of light. And this is about now, God's going to start shifting something where you're actually going to succeed by thinking about each other, because as I become a resource for you, God knows I can't be a resource for you unless he resources me. And so he recognizes that I am a person who is going to live open-handed. I'm a person who's going to live with my hands wide open. And God says, I can trust Dustin in this because he is going to be a person who's going to take care of my body and not take care of just himself. And it takes a lot to take care of this body. You know what I'm saying? This is a lot of upkeep. You don't just get this way in a day. It takes a lot of upkeep. So as you're looking around a house, I need you to look around the house and realize there's so many stories in your house. There's so many stories that now are getting interconnected. And there's 4 things that I wanted you to think about as you're sitting in the room with each other and looking at each other's faces, recognizing that now your stories are connected. Now your stories are starting to collide with each other. The very first thing that is going to have to happen is you're going to have to learn to share your story. You're going to have to share your story with each other. That is hard sometimes. Some of us don't want to share our stories. Some of us are embarrassed of our stories. But I need you to understand that your story is not fully written. What you're really reading to people is not your story. What you're really reading to people are the chapters that have been written so far. And the power of it is there's no great story without conflict, but there's also no great story without resolution. And I know some of you are in the middle of chapters that are hard. They're hard. There's stories that some of you are embarrassed about, but in a community of faith, we're going to start realizing there cannot be any shame in this group. We were even joking this morning, but I've heard that phrase so many times, and I used to hear it as kids, they'd say, shame on you. And I started realizing like that is such a hard thing, because what it means is like you're putting something on somebody. And I just want to say, shame off you. Today, shame off you. We have to be a people who are not afraid to share our stories. Secondly, we cannot be afraid to share our struggles. This is really difficult in our culture, because our culture has been, especially in a community of faith, a lot of times we're basically told, like, you're not allowed to have struggles. That's hard, because actually it really just means you're good at hiding it, because there's not one of us in this room who have not walked through struggles. And I think that is hard. I think it is hard for us sometimes to share our struggles and recognize that in our walk of struggles, when we are able to put it out, Dr. Caroline Leaf, she talks about the power of rewriting your brain, that you have the ability to rewrite your brain, you know? But she talks about being able to share your struggles, but doing it in a safe zone with safe people. If you do it with toxic people, then it's very hurtful, because all it does is empower the struggle. Two drowning people can't help each other. But the hard thing is we very rarely want to share our struggle with somebody strong, because we want to appear strong. But the truth is, there may be times in your life that you're going to need a community to link arms with you and walk with you. And when you're weak, they're strong. And sometimes they're going to be weak and you get to be strong. So it really is about linking arms with each other, and we have to be willing to do that. Pastor Robert last week talked about this, so I won't go too in depth about this, but you have to be willing to share your scars. So our stories, our mistakes, our struggles, and we have to share our scars. And I love what he was talking about last week. I actually have a scar. I have my arm, I have a scar that runs from the bottom all the way to the top of my arm. And they actually told me I had a truck flip over on my arm, drag my arm down the road. They call it a degloving, where it ripped the skin off from the top all the way down to the bottom, tore my tendons, had to have a skin graft in the middle. They told me there's a good chance I'll never use my arm again when that happened. And I was in college. I was actually going through music. I had not even played the piano yet. That wasn't something that I had done. And I realized, like, there's a power in the scar, because that kind of brings us back to some of the things that happened in my story. I could tell you my story, but it's different when you see my scar. Because I can adopt someone else's story. You know, we traveled in missions and did missions and stuff. And I remember one time when I got done preaching, I walked out and I told a funny story that happened to us in Africa. And I heard someone else telling the story, word for word almost, for what I just told on the platform. And they were telling it like they did it. And they were so excited. Like, they were so energetic about this story. They're telling my story, and they're not saying they did it, but it's almost like they lived it. And I realized we've kind of taken on other people's stories at times as if we walked through it, but there's some things that only you that have the scar from, that you can reveal. No, this is a part of my life, and this proves you can live through this. I know what they said. I know what was done. I know it was hard. But I think for us, we have to be able to show each other the scars and recognize there's some things at a personal level you have walked through that you can now help us walk through, because you bear the scars of it. Remember, Jesus, the Bible says, in his perfect body, when he comes back resurrected, he's resurrected from the dead, and he walks into a room, and Thomas walks in, and Jesus says, hey, if you don't believe, touch the scars of my hand, which means his perfect body, resurrected body, still had scars on it. That's hard for us, because we want all the scars to go away, because we don't like the memory of it. But I just need you to know that's still just a chapter. That causes me to say, who's the next part of my chapter? The best part of the story of my scar is I met Gina when my arm was still wrapped up. I met her right after, and Jesus began a new chapter in my life while I was still healing from the scar of another one. So this just marks chapters, and I believe God wants to share our scars. And the last thing I want to say is you're going to have to share your home. That's hard for us. You know, it is a personal space. But our culture has done something very wicked and very hard, and we don't even realize how wicked it is, but it has gone inside, and we've locked ourselves inside in rooms by ourselves because we were told you're supposed to be by yourself. And I'm going to say something that this is our culture, so I need you to understand. All I'm trying to do is trying to undo some things in our culture a little bit, but one of the things that's really been hurtful and hard is that when you read the New Testament, you would find people who took care of each other, and they were so wrapped up in each other's lives that they would actually help with each other's families. And I have watched moms have to take on some responsibility for families by themselves, and some of them have been champs with it, and they're so good with their kids at home, and they're raising up. But you're raising a human being by yourself, and you were never meant to do that. That is not the way God intended it. God never intended you, and our culture puts it on you so heavy, and there's depression in the home, there's anxiety in the home, because our culture has said, if you can't do this by yourself, you're not a good mom. And I want to break that off of you, that you were never meant to have to parent alone. I know that's so hard. In an individualistic society, it is so hard to hear that you are supposed to parent alone, but you were never meant to parent alone. And I'm talking to moms and dads here. I'm not just putting this on moms. I need you to know this is going to be hard, but you are supposed to have other families in your life to help you walk your kids through things. And some of you who are like, man, it's so hard being a parent. A lot of that is because of how much you've walked separate from community that is actually supposed to help you walk with your kids. They're not supposed to raise your kids for you. That's not what I'm saying. The home is obviously the place that's supposed to do that. But we have neglected the community, and the church has done such a horrible job of walking with you in your home that what we did was said, give us your kids. We separate them from their parents. We try to just do a youth group to where now they're all alone and the things they like are just them together. And then when they walk into their home, there's no carryover into the home because we've not walked with each other in our homes. We've only walked with each other in a church building. And we have to have both. Moms are struggling with anxiety and depression, I believe, not because you're doing anything wrong, which is what the enemy wants you to believe, but I believe it's because the church has not been the church. We have not been a community that cares for each other and loves each other. And there's proof of it all around us when we walk into a room and we can't even have a conversation with somebody because we're not going to intersect stories because we kind of walk within like, well, what do they want from me? What do they need from me? They're wanting something from me. But the truth is, for me, that's actually true. I do want something from you. I want you in each other's lives. I will do anything I can to make it happen. I will make myself look less successful as a pastor and minister by dividing everybody up into homes, by splitting it up like, because I guarantee you, if visitors walk in today, they're like, oh, this is a really small church. This is I don't want to be, they a lot of times want to go bigger churches so they can hide, I can walk in, nobody sees me, nobody, and it is hard, isn't it? With little kids coming in here, it's like, my kid's going to run around. It's like, that's okay. That's okay. But it's not because we're so systematic about everything. It's like, no, it's not okay. And it's like, oh, man, you see kids running around? Like, yeah, I did. It's called life. Like, this is real life, people. If we were in a home, I want them running around. I want them to be able to have fun. I want them to agree like, man, church is a blast. It doesn't mean out of control. I get it. But for me, it's like, can we create safe zones and safe places where it's like, this is family? So you have to be willing to share your story. You have to be willing to share your scars. You have to be willing to share your struggles. But you have to be willing to share your home. You have to be willing to share yourself. That's the way this is going to work. And this may not be the place for you. You may want to go to a church where you get to stand in a row, look at the back of somebody's head, and not know them and be okay with it. And leave and be like, at least I had my connection with God. But I believe your connection with God is supposed to come through your connection with people. Church has done a horrible job of that and said, oh, this is all about Jesus. That's actually not what Jesus said. And it's not what God said. John 3:16, we love to quote it, for God so loved the world. Oh, that's funny. He loves something too. That means it's not just about him, it's about what he loves. And if he loves the world and he loves people, then I'm going to love people too. And I show how much I love Jesus by how much I care for other people. Jesus made the statement, he says, when I was in prison, you visited me. He says, when I was thirsty, you gave me a drink. And they were like, when did we ever give you a drink? And he said, when you did it for someone else, you did it for me. So when we stand in a room, we're like, man, he got worship today because I sang to him. You know how he gets worth? He gets worth by how you treat other people. When you did it to them, you did it to me. So don't tell me you're going to be a jerk and then come in here and worship and say, well, I did worship. I did worship good this week. No, if you're a jerk to somebody else, you didn't do worship good. And I've been a part of a charismatic movement. I've been in church. I've been on the floor before. I've seen people shake, and it's okay. The problem is I really don't care that you fell down. I really care how you got back up. I love the manifestations of the Spirit. I love how God moves on people. And I've seen it. I've experienced it myself. It's powerful. It's awesome. But then I watch people get up, and I watch them still not care about people. And I was like, there's no way that's the Spirit of God. There's no way. Now, if you fell down, like when God got a hold of me and it smashed me to the floor, it changed everything about my life. Everything. How I thought about people, how I directioned things in my life, my pursuit, everything about me changed because I experienced the presence of God. And I want you to experience the same presence, but it's not just for you, it's for us. And I believe God is doing something so radical in this movement. There's a lot of pieces to it, but today I wanted to do it. I wanted to be able to look into your homes. We got our friends in Denver that are on too. We've got our other friends, the Riddles that are on their way. Woohoo! I know that's pretty soon. We got a lot of people who are moving here, and some people would say, what a weird thing. Like, what are you moving for? And we've had a lot of people say, I don't know. I don't know why I'm moving to Nashville. We've had some in this room, like, I don't know why I'm moving. But I guarantee you this is going to happen. Some of you are going to realize you moved here for us. Some of you are it's going to be such a radical thing. People are going to say, I'm moving for a church. And people are going to be like, what? Why is it so weird that they move for a job? It's not weird that they move for a job, but then it's weird when you move to be a part of what everyone really longs for, and that is a true friends. I want to do life with people. And I'm willing to do anything we can to do. I'm willing to put ourselves at risk by buying a big property where people can fit on, and I'm willing to risk it by sending them somewhere else besides the property. I don't even know how we're going to pay for this now. How do you take an offering now? We don't even have a huge group here, But I do want you to know that we really do care for you. And it is a slow process trying to get to know each other. I take a lot of weight. My wife has to have conversations with me like all the time of like, don't take the burden of everyone on. The only way I would have to do that, the only way I would have to take the burden of everyone else on is if everyone else doesn't take the burden on themselves. And I know that's not who we are. We've already proven that. I mean, we got 9 homes right now that are proving Dustin doesn't have to do this by himself. We've already got all these people who are saying we care enough for you. I mean, our food here, our food's better than any other home I know, but I'm going to show a picture of it, but you just can't come here next time. The Riddles can, but everybody else, no one else can come here next time. Look at Stacy's eating right now. Like, what? No, you look at, wow, maybe your food's better too. I don't know, but I really appreciate all of you taking a risk with us and jumping into other people's homes, jumping into other people's lives, and I want you to share the stories with each other. We're going to do this more. We're scheduled to do it next month, at the end of the month, and we'll see how it goes. And we'll do our best to do this. I've had people tell me, why don't you do it on a Friday night instead so we can all meet on Sunday? And it's like, you know what? I'm not totally against that, but you know what I'd rather do? I'd rather make sure that everybody who already has Sundays scheduled, that they can get into a home, and then on Friday night, we'll all gather for a worship night. We'll get together for a worship night, and we're going to do more of that, and we'll eat together at those two, because I always think you should always have food. Amen? So I'm going to pray over the homes, and then I'm going to release at least our homes here. If those of you who are online want to stay with us, you can, but those who are home groups, I'm going to pray over you, and then I'm going to let you shut that down. Oh, yeah, okay. Gina's telling me, before you pray, do announcements. It's my favorite thing. You can't do announcements. Oh, this is home. She's just taking over.
I just want to make sure we don't forget about the harvest party this Friday. We have a team of people that have put a lot of work into it, and it's going to be fabulous. So Friday night at 6 o'clock, we have, I think so far we have at least 8 signups for a chili cook-off. So it's a legit cook-off. And we have judges and everything, so we're going to have that. We're going to have a hayride. We will have inflatables. We have all kinds of lawn games and prizes, and we will send your children home with bags of candy. So please come out. And we have until... we asked people to bring candy. We haven't been here during the week. If anybody has time to drop off some candy either today or tomorrow, we are filling bags tomorrow evening. So we'd love it. I don't know what you're saying. We need 10 more volunteers. We need 10 more volunteers. So we sent out an email with a link to volunteer to with all the games. So if you are free that night, and it's like a 30-minute slot, right? So you don't have to work the whole time. 30-minute slot, you can help with the game. That would be fabulous. I think that's it about the party. Bring candy, drop it off here either today or tomorrow. You can just set it on one of the tables. We will get it. It's never locked like that. That will be unlocked for you to drop off candy. Okay.
And I love parties. So we have like inflatables coming that I'll be on, and I'm hosting one of those. I don't go down them. I just shove kids off of them. So they love it. Kids love it. They think it's amazing. Moms I wouldn't watch, but kids love it. They're like, throw me again. Pastor does is the coolest. He just drop kicked me off of here. This is awesome. So, no, the harvest party is going to be amazing, and I love chili cook-offs too. So, that'll be, and then Saturday morning for the guys, we're going to do a men's breakfast that Saturday morning in here at 7:30 in the morning, and we're going to be just getting to know each other, and we're also going to talk about the property and some of the things that we're going to be doing on the property to fix up the property that can involve all families, not just guys, but we'll talk about it that morning with the guys. So anything else? Let me say this. For those in the homes and here, there's an app called Church Center app. It's Church Center is what it's called. If you'll download that app, click on HopeUC, that will give you all the announcements. All the announcements are on there. It gives you a place that you can donate, you can give on there. It also it's how we connect through homes. So all the homes, I know it doesn't send notifications, but even this morning, Aaron was sending us messages about the morning. And if you want that, all you have to do is sign up for it, and we'll assign you to a home, and that home will pop up on your phone. So then when you click that, it'll be a message group of everybody who's in that home. So you guys can start communicating with each other. And we'll do our best. There's a couple homes that we'll switch out next time, add a couple, and we'll try to spread out. Maybe next time we'll be over at the house. We'll see how that goes. So you can do that. And then if you're visiting with us and you want to stay connected, remember, we can only contact you if we have your information. And so you can text the word HopeUC to 44222, and that will give you access. That'll give us access into your information. The other thing is that you can go to hopeuc.com/Nashville, and that's important because we can't, even if you do this text thing, we can't send you emails unless you approve us sending emails. Like you're just not allowed to. The government set it up to where you're not allowed to believe how many spam emails we get. I don't totally believe everybody follows that. But we're not allowed to email you unless you have approved us emailing you. So if you'll go to hopeuc.com and you can find Nashville on there and sign up for the email, we'll get all that information. I will, just at the very end, Drew, put up the giving app or the giving thing. I don't want to bypass this because we always want to give ourselves a chance to give. When we break up into these groups, it's not going to be like, well, we met in homes today, Gina and I aren't going to tithe. That doesn't even make sense. So one of the best ways you can prove that you're for us as an us and as a group is that you invest in each other. And this is an investment in each other and in God's group and God's financial system. And so I highly believe in tithing and giving. And so you can do that through text or any other way. Okay, thank you guys. And we're going to say goodbye to our home groups. Goodbye, home groups. Thank you guys for getting on and doing this. And the rest of you, Denver and stuff, if you want to stay around for just a few minutes, I'm going to pass it off to Aaron and Jen. And they're going to pray over you guys. And I know they have maybe a couple encouraging words over people. But I want to just say thanks to Jen and Aaron for just everything you've done. You guys have been such a blessing to our family. And, hosting this group, but you host a lot of lives in a lot of ways. And Aaron is has just been a good friend. And Gina and I were saying just the other day, it's just like he's, it's funny because when you give your life to something and you're just doing it and you're just going, it's hard sometimes because you don't understand why some people won't, And you're like, it's so good if you just give yourself to it. But I know there's been a lot of hurts, and I know there's been a lot of systems that we've been a part of that have kept us from wanting to join anything else. And Aaron and Jen have walked through some of that too, and we had long talks about it, and we still talk about it. But the truth is that he jumped in before it was all fixed. It's like there's still a risk involved of like, I don't want to kind of go back. And it's like, yeah, but there's no way to do it unless we just try something. And I've just watched their family throw themselves in 100%. And Aaron is always here trying to make this place special for you. He got up this morning, he did the fire, and they're sitting around like, and he told me the other day, he's like, we're going to pray and figure out how to make this like feel like home for people, you know? And I just want to honor that in you guys and thank you for doing that and just for being friends to us. So, okay. This one next. Hello.
Says really nice things, makes you cry, and then says, hey, come on up here. Hey, thanks. I was thinking, hello, everyone that's still online. The Gibsons, I told you I'd wave at you, so I'm wherever you are, I'm waving at you. Some of this stuff that we're doing, I also felt with Zoom culture is weird, isn't it? 7 months into it, and what I was thinking when Dustin had his chest all puffed up there, is you can almost tell somebody's age in a Zoom world by how their camera placement. Teenagers are up here. You get in your late 20s, 30s, it gets right here, and then at some age, it's only down here, and you get to just see their chest and up their nose, and it's just, that's Zoom culture. So 7 months in. I was thinking this morning as Dustin was talking, so many of you that I've done life with, it was a documentary about the Manhattan firehouses. And in the 70s and 80s, they began to watch out for one another because they realized that Manhattan's just a very dangerous area. Fires happen, you hit a door, and you lose a brother. And so what they did was they began to create community. And they purposefully went to each other's houses to meet their kids. And this sounds terribly scary and morbid, but the reason they were doing it is because their brother may hit a door at some point with fire behind it, and they would be killed. And that community wanted to make sure that I want you to know my children because you're committing to continuing to raise my children should I hit a door at some point. And that's what I feel from this community. I love to get together. I love it when the roof lifts, but I also love it when there's just a small group. I don't need to be in front of a whole bunch of people. This is not my thing. Sit at a table with 3 or 4 people, I love that. I can do that all day. It gives me life. This, I'll need a nap this afternoon. It's just one of those things.
And I'll be wide awake.
Yeah.
People! And I had a microphone.
So I've got a couple of words that I would like to give.
While he's looking for his word, I just want to reiterate that about family. And that was, he had some very specific people come on his heart, words for you all. But as I was sitting here this morning, my heart just really went out to everybody that has littles right now. And I'm watching littles come in. And it's a hard life, and you feel judged with everything you do. Everything that happens with your kids, you feel like all these eyes are on you, that you're not good enough, that you're not a good enough parent. And I was so happy when Dustin said that this morning, that go ahead and let them run. They're kids.
In truth, though, mine is old enough to not be walking.
Yeah. Maxwell, I don't know. We've lost control.
He's his mother's child.
Yeah. But I just want you to know that this community, that's when we first heard that Dustin and Gina were going to be starting this, I knew right away that this was for my kids, specifically for my boys, because I knew my boys needed good, godly men in their lives, not just their dad. And that's what's happened. I have seen them grow so much this last year because they've had this community. And they don't get to talk with the men super often, but just being in this environment of godly, encouraging men and families has helped us and encouraged us so much. Now my kids dress themselves, feed themselves. Usually they brush their teeth. They're pretty self-sufficient, but this life when they're little and you're running after them, it gets tough. And I just want you all to know that we love you, and we're not sitting back judging you because your kid got squirrely during church and they couldn't sit there anymore. We're sitting back thinking, it's okay, Mama. It's okay, Dad. Just let them run it off for a minute, and we all love you and just embrace you and remember that life. And we'll probably chuckle when we shouldn't. But I just want you to know you're loved, and we are walking this with you. I just don't want you to feel that heavy burden I want you to feel rest. So that's all I have.
And like those firefighters I was talking about, you're going to have to make it intentional to have a crazy uncle in your life that when you're stressed and your kids are running around, they aren't related to you, but they know your kids well enough that they can stand up and take them out and do something that scares you as a parent. Hey, that's just how it is. You can have a crazy aunt to do that too. But speaking of that, Mike and Casey Smith, when we talk about strong people who walk through some things, I'm just going to read, that's why I wrote it out. We love your family. You bring peace and gentleness when you step into a room. I see you becoming a family to many in this community. Casey, you will bring loving peace through their struggles, and Mike, you'll be a strong fatherly influence. We are honored to stand with you as you walk in this new season. We've done some life with them through that. I mentioned with the Kinners doing worship nights, and there was so much more that happened there than just a group singing. There was a bond that formed that I know if at a moment's notice, if I need some help, they're there. And also, I remember with the Lowrys, we got blessed with a bunch of, some reason there was a season in our life where people were giving us venison, like lots and lots of venison. And I was like, a lot of venison. What am I supposed to do with this? Well, we had a community, and that we knew who was in it, and we would meet in the Williamson County Rec Center. Hey, where are you at? I'm at the rec center. We're doing swim meet. I got some meat. I'll be over there in a minute. And we're doing the venison meat exchange as part of our community. But that's what I want for you. What Dustin's talking about is that means you're going to step out of your comfort zone. You're going to start doing life with people. You're going to get emotional when you talk because you've lived some life with those people. But it's going to be raw. You're going to have to plug into that. And I have one other word. This is for the Cuernos. I don't know the two of you as well as I am going to know the two of you. But here's what I heard from the Lord, that your stories, there are stories in your life that you may be disappointed in. But God has brought you here to redeem those stories. What the enemy meant for your destruction, God is going to use to produce strength and courage in others. This is going to require you to be raw and to be real. But I want to assure you, you are in a safe place and you're loved. We need to hear your story. It has to be redeemed, but it has to be heard. I'm for you 100%. And I'm for you. I want more stories like this. So that when we do come together on a Sunday and it's all of us together, you look across the room and somebody's got tears running down their eye, you can walk over there and you know already what's going on. You stand shoulder to shoulder with them and you know what to pray. You don't have to ask, what can I pray with you about? You know because you're living life. I want to thank you, Dustin and Gina, for pushing into this thing. Thank you. It's risky. It's scary. It's not church as normal. But that's why I'm here, because it's not church as normal. Thank you. Now, I'm going to be done. I need a nap. Do you have anything? Do you have anything?
No, mine. Okay. I just wanted to encourage the families, and I will reiterate, because I have the microphone and I can, just how much you're loved. Please don't forget that when you leave today. That you are loved so much, and we do want to walk the good, the bad, and the ugly with you, and we'll be there with you, and I can't wait to hear your stories and love on you and overwhelm you with me. Yeah, so that's, I guess I just can't get away from that, and I have to look at everybody. Just know you're loved. You're not judged. We don't have these, you should do better or whatever. We just love you. so, so much. And thank you so much for being here today and letting us chat with you and being vulnerable. And Jesse and Natalie, do you happen to have anything on your heart for people? No, you're good? Okay. Okay.
I just woke Jesse up. He's whoa.
I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
This has actually been on my heart for a couple of weeks now, but I feel like there are some, I don't know if it's here or connected, where you have specifically asked God about legacy, your own legacy. And not as like I want to be so great or whatever, but it's like you have something to give, to pass down to the next generation. And I really felt like the Lord said, you worry about delighting yourself in me. I'm going to place you where you need to be placed, in positions of influence with the right people. I'm going to open up the doors for you. So if you've been thinking about that, I really feel like that's a word for you. And it's funny, it came up several times in Thursday night prayer. And it really felt like this was an opportunity to say that. So thanks.
All right, to end it, we're going to do the declarations together. So I think in unification, let's all just stand, and we'll, if we can put that up, because even with memorization of it,
Drew.
Dad's got him. Dad.
Teasing you, Drew.
The light's off and the teenagers, and they're asleep.
We love you, Drew.
Okay, let's read this together. I pray that God, who is the source of hope, will fill us completely with joy and peace because we place our trust in Him. Then we will overflow with confident hope through the power of the Holy Spirit. Amen.